The wine glass shattered against the marble floor like my marriage. Expensive, loud, and impossible to put back together. I watched the Pinot Noir spread across Sophia's pristine white tiles, thinking how fitting it was that something red was finally staining her perfect world. Eli, you're such a klutz, Sophia laughed. But her voice had that sharp edge I'd been hearing more often lately. Her friends, Callie, Jade, and Vanessa, giggled like hyenas around the kitchen island, their manicured fingers clutching champagne flutes worth more than most people's monthly rent. Sorry about that, I said, grabbing paper towels. At 42, I'd built custom homes for millionaires, survived 2 Navy deployments, and could wire a house blindfolded. But apparently, I couldn't hold a wine glass at my own wife's party without becoming the evening's entertainment. Sophia Quinn, formerly Sophia Martinez before she decided her maiden name didn't fit her new image, stood there in a black dress that probably cost more than my truck payment. At 34, she still had that model-perfect figure that had caught my eye at a charity auction 5 years ago. Back then, she'd been serving drinks to rich donors, grateful for the attention of a successful contractor who treated her like she mattered. Now she treated me like I was the help. Eli, honey, why don't you go talk to the men on the patio? She said, her tone suggesting I was embarrassing her sophisticated friends. We're discussing the charity gala next month. Translation. We're gossiping about people you don't know and spending money you earned. I headed outside where a few husbands stood around my custom-built fire pit, nursing beers and checking their phones. The October air carried the scent of salt from the nearby coast and the sound of my wife's laughter drifting through the French doors I'd installed myself. Ryan Mitchell, my old Navy buddy and the only real friend in attendance, sidled up with 2 beers. Rough crowd tonight, Quinn. Your wife's friends make sharks look cuddly. Tell me about it. I accepted the beer gratefully. Ryan ran a small auto repair shop downtown and understood what it meant to work with your hands. Unlike Mason Carter, who was currently holding court by the pool, gesturing with expensive scotch and talking about his latest real estate acquisition. Mason Carter, 40 years old, silver-haired, and smooth as the snake oil he probably sold. Before getting into luxury properties, he was also Sophia's boss at Prestige Realty, where she'd been working for the past year, supposedly selling high-end homes to wealthy clients. You know, Ryan said, following my gaze, that guy's been paying a lot of attention to your wife tonight. I'd noticed. Mason had arrived fashionably late in his black Porsche, kissed Sophia's cheek a little too long, and complimented her dress with the familiarity of someone who'd seen it before. Maybe even helped pick it out. The slow music started inside. Some jazz number Sophia claimed to love but never listened to when we were alone. Through the windows, I watched couples pairing off for dancing. Sophia appeared in the doorway, scanning the patio until her eyes found mine. Eli, come dance with me, she called, but her smile looked forced. I followed her inside, past the gossiping wives and their knowing looks. The living room had been cleared for dancing, the furniture I'd helped arrange pushed against the walls. Other couples swayed to the music while Sophia's friends watched from the kitchen doorway like judges at a competition. Sophia moved into my arms, but her body felt stiff, distant. We danced at our wedding to the same song, The Way You Look Tonight, but now it felt like a funeral dirge for whatever we'd once had. You're tense, I said, trying to pull her closer. I'm fine. She glanced over my shoulder toward the kitchen. Just trying to make sure everyone's having a good time. What about your husband? Is he having a good time? She looked at me then, and for a moment I saw something flicker in her dark eyes. Guilt? Regret? But it vanished quickly, replaced by that cool mask she'd perfected over the past year. You know what, Eli? I'd rather kiss my dog than pretend this is romantic. The words hit like a physical blow. The music didn't stop, but I felt every conversation in the room pause. Callie's high-pitched giggle cut through the silence, followed by Jade's whispered comment to Vanessa. I stopped dancing and stepped back, looking at the woman I'd married, the woman I'd pulled out of a dead-end waitressing job and given a life most people only dreamed of, the woman who was now publicly humiliating me in front of her new friends. Well, Sophia, I said, my voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet room, you'll be kissing the doors of my house when I throw you out. Her face went white. The mask slipped completely, revealing something close to panic. She knew about the prenup, the one she'd signed without reading back when she was desperate and grateful, the one that protected everything I'd built before our marriage. Mason Carter appeared at her elbow like he'd been waiting in the wings. Everything okay here? Everything's perfect, I said, looking directly at him. Just having a conversation with my wife about our future. The party resumed its rhythm, but the damage was done. I'd drawn a line in the sand, and everyone in the room knew it. Sophia's friends clustered around her like protective hens, while Mason whispered something in her ear that made her nod quickly. I walked back outside, Ryan following with fresh beers. Holy crap, Quinn. That was either the stupidest or the bravest thing I've ever seen. Probably both. I took a long drink, watching Mason through the windows as he comforted my wife. His hand lingered on her lower back, and she leaned into him just enough to confirm what I'd been suspecting for months. So what's the plan? Ryan asked. I thought about that charity auction 5 years ago, where I'd met a beautiful, struggling woman who'd been grateful for kindness. I'd changed her life, given her everything she'd ever wanted. Now she was embarrassed by the man who'd made it all possible. I'm going to remind her where she came from, I said, and show her exactly what she's about to lose. The party wound down around midnight, guests departing with air kisses and promises to call soon. I helped clean up, loading the dishwasher I'd installed and wiping down the granite counters I'd chosen. Every surface in this house bore my fingerprints. Every room reflected my labor and my money. Sophia disappeared into our bedroom without a word. I found her sitting at her vanity, removing the diamond earrings I'd bought for our anniversary. We need to talk, I said. Not tonight, Eli. I'm tired. I bet you are. Long day at the office? She met my eyes in the mirror. What's that supposed to mean? It means Mason Carter seems very comfortable in my house, very familiar with my wife. He's my boss. We work together. Is that what you call it? She turned to face me, and for a moment I saw the old Sophia, the one who used to curl up against me on the couch, who used to laugh at my terrible jokes, who used to look at me like I'd hung the moon. Eli, I know tonight was difficult, but we're different people now. I'm different. I have goals, ambitions. That don't include your husband. That don't include settling for less than I deserve. There it was. The truth she'd been dancing around for months. I wasn't good enough anymore. The man who'd built her dream house, who'd supported her real estate career, who'd introduced her to a world of luxury she'd never imagined, I was now beneath her standards. You might want to read that prenup again, Sophia. Really carefully this time. She flinched. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you of reality. This house, the cars, the bank accounts, it's all mine. You brought a suitcase and a smile to this marriage. That's what you'll leave with. I walked out, leaving her staring at her reflection in the mirror, surrounded by light bulbs I'd wired myself. In my workshop, a converted garage space she'd never bothered to visit, I sat among my tools and blueprints, thinking about the woman upstairs and the man who was trying to steal her. Mason Carter had no idea who he was messing with. Neither did Sophia, apparently. But they were about to learn. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Dale Morrison, an old Navy buddy who'd become a private investigator after his police career ended badly. If Sophia and Mason wanted to play games, I'd make sure I knew all the rules. The game was about to begin. Dale Morrison looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for an ex-cop turned private investigator. Thick mustache, cheap suit, and eyes that had seen too much of humanity's worst impulses. We met at a diner downtown, far from Sophia's usual haunts. So your wife's cheating, he said, stirring sugar into coffee that looked strong enough to wake the dead. Join the club, Quinn. Half my business is cheating spouses. I need proof. Photos, recordings, something that'll hold up if this goes legal. Dale studied me across the cracked vinyl booth. You sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes ignorance really is bliss. I thought about Sophia's friends laughing at me, about Mason's proprietary hand on her back, about 5 years of building a life with someone who now considered me an embarrassment. I'm sure. Okay, but my rates aren't cheap. Surveillance, equipment, documentation, it adds up fast. Money's not a problem. I slid an envelope across the table. There's $5,000 to start. Get me what I need. Dale pocketed the envelope without counting it. Tell me about their routine. When does she work late? Weekend trips? Unusual patterns? I'd been mentally cataloging Sophia's behavior for weeks without realizing it. She's been staying late at the office twice a week, supposedly showing properties to out-of-state clients. weekend open houses that never seem to generate any sales, and she's been getting texts at all hours that she won't let me see. Phone's locked, fingerprint and passcode. She guards it like state secrets. We'll work around that. What about Carter? Divorced last year. Lives alone in a mansion on Harbor Hill. Drives the black Porsche, probably compensating for something. Dale chuckled. They always are. I'll start with basic surveillance. See where they go, what they do. Give me a week. That afternoon, I drove past Prestige Realty's downtown office. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see Sophia at her desk, talking animatedly on the phone. She was wearing a red dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled differently than when she'd left the house that morning. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Working late tonight, don't wait up. It was barely 3 o'clock. I parked across the street and waited. At 4:30, Mason's Porsche pulled into the reserved space out front. He emerged wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, checked his reflection in the tinted windows, and walked into the building like he owned it, which, according to the brass nameplate by the door, he did. 15 minutes later, they emerged together. Mason's hand rested on Sophia's lower back as he guided her toward his car. She was laughing at something he'd said, her head tilted back in a way that was achingly familiar. She used to laugh like that with me. I followed them through downtown traffic, staying back far enough to avoid detection. They drove to the Ocean View Hotel, a 5-star resort where I'd taken Sophia for our second anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. They disappeared into the lobby together. I parked and waited, watching the windows of the upper floors, wondering which room contained my wife and her boss. My phone sat silent on the passenger seat. No apologetic texts about running late, no explanations about difficult clients, just silence and betrayal. An hour later, they emerged looking satisfied and relaxed. Mason kissed her cheek before they got into separate cars. Sophia drove home while Mason headed toward Harbor Hill. I beat her home by 10 minutes, enough time to settle in my workshop with a beer and yesterday's newspaper. When she walked through the door at 7:30, I could hear her heels clicking across the hardwood floors I'd installed. "Eli? I'm home. In here," I called back. She appeared in the workshop doorway, still wearing the red dress, but looking slightly disheveled. Her lipstick was gone, and her hair had that tousled look that came from fingers running through it. "Long day?" I asked without looking up from the sports section. "Exhausting. We had 3 showings, and the clients were so demanding, I barely had time for lunch." The lies came so easily now. I wondered when she'd become such an accomplished actress, or if she'd always had this talent, and I'd just been too trusting to notice. "How's Mason?" She stiffened slightly. "He's fine. Why?" "Just wondering. He seemed very attentive at the party. He's a good boss, supportive." "I bet he is." She studied my face, looking for signs of suspicion. "Eli, if you have something to say, just say it." I folded the newspaper and met her eyes. "I'm saying your boss seems to take a very personal interest in your career, and you seem to enjoy the attention." "That's ridiculous. Mason is a professional." "Professional what?" "That's the question." Color rose in her cheeks. Anger or guilt, I couldn't tell which. "I don't have to listen to this. I'm going to take a shower." She stalked out, leaving behind the faint scent of expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine. I sat among my tools and half-finished projects, surrounded by the honest work of building and creating, while upstairs my wife washed off the evidence of her afternoon with another man. My phone rang. Dale's number. "That was fast," I said. "I aim to please. Your wife and her boss just spent 90 minutes at the Ocean View Hotel, room 412, registered to Carter. They do this twice a week, regular as clockwork." "You got photos?" "Entering together, leaving separately. Nothing explicit, but the timeline tells a story. Want me to keep digging?" "Yeah. And Dale, see what you can find out about Mason Carter's business. Something tells me a guy who steals other men's wives might have other ethical problems." "Copy that. I'll be in touch." I hung up and stared at the ceiling, listening to the shower running upstairs. The water pipes I'd installed, in the bathroom I'd renovated, in the house I'd built for the woman who was systematically betraying everything we'd created together. But Sophia had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated the man she was cheating on. I'd spent my Navy years learning that the best defense was a good offense, and my construction career had taught me that before you could build something new, you had to tear down what wasn't working. It was time to start demolition. The next morning, Sophia left for work early, claiming she had a breakfast meeting with potential clients. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner, then made a phone call. Prestige Realty, this is Jennifer. Hi, this is Tom Bradley from Bradley Construction. I'm looking for Sophia Quinn about the Harbor Point project. I'm sorry, Mr. Bradley, but Sophia won't be in until after lunch. She's showing the Westfield property all morning. Interesting. Sophia had told me that she was having breakfast downtown, but according to her office, she was across town showing a house. I wondered which story was true, or if both were lies covering for something else entirely. I drove to the Westfield address, a sprawling colonial I'd actually helped build 2 years earlier. The house sat empty, no cars in the driveway, no for sale sign on the lawn. Either Sophia was showing an unlisted property, or she wasn't here at all. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Clients are so indecisive, might be here all afternoon, love you. The lies were getting bolder and sloppier. I called Dale. Where are they today? Same hotel, different room. Your wife's getting predictable, Quinn. Same routine, same timing. It's like they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Maybe they don't think they need to. Sophia's gotten comfortable, confident. She thinks I'm just the dumb contractor who pays the bills. Are you going to confront her? I thought about that. The direct approach had its merits, but it would also put them on guard. If I was going to do this right, I needed more than just proof of an affair. I needed leverage. Not yet. Keep watching them. And Dale, start looking into Mason's ex-wife. If he's cheating with Sophia, he probably cheated on his wife too. Divorced women love to talk about their cheating ex-husbands. Now you're thinking like a detective. I'll make some calls. That evening, Sophia came home with shopping bags from expensive boutiques, claiming she'd found some great sales during her lunch break. The timing was impossible. She'd supposedly been showing houses all day. But she delivered the lie with such conviction that I almost admired her skill. You're spending a lot lately, I observed, watching her model a new dress that probably cost more than most people's weekly salary. I'm making more in commissions. The luxury market is really picking up. Must be, that's a beautiful dress. Special occasion? Mason's taking the whole team to the charity gala next week. I wanted something appropriate. Mason's taking the team, not the company, not Prestige Realty. Mason, personally, as if he were the center of her universe now. I thought we were going to that gala together. She paused, caught between stories. Well, yes, of course. But Mason thought it would be good for business if we all sat together, network with potential clients. More lies, delivered with practiced ease. I wondered how long she'd been planning this, how many details she'd worked out with her lover while they lay in bed at the Ocean View Hotel. Sounds like Mason has a lot of opinions about your social calendar. He's helping my career, Eli. Some people might call that being supportive. The implication was clear, unlike her husband, who apparently wasn't supportive enough. I'd only built her a custom home, bought her a luxury car, and encouraged her real estate ambitions. Clearly, I was falling down on the job. You're right, I said. Mason sounds like a very supportive boss. She smiled, thinking she'd won the argument. I'm glad you understand. Oh, I understood perfectly. I understood that my wife had chosen her side, made her plans, and was now just going through the motions until she figured out how to leave me for a richer man. What she didn't understand was that the richer man was about to become much poorer, and the husband she was betraying was about to remind her exactly what she'd be giving up. The game was accelerating, and I was ready to play. Dale's surveillance photos spread across my workshop table like evidence in a homicide trial. Sophia and Mason entering the hotel. Sophia and Mason at expensive restaurants. Sophia and Mason shopping together on what she'd told me was a solo girls' trip with her friends. Your wife's living a double life, Dale said, pointing to a photo of them kissing in Mason's Porsche. And she's getting sloppy about it. What about Mason's ex-wife? Dale grinned. Gina Carter. Divorced him 8 months ago after catching him with his secretary. She's bitter, angry, and very willing to talk about her cheating ex-husband's business practices. Business practices? Mason's been inflating property values, taking kickbacks from inspectors, and skimming money from escrow accounts. Gina has copies of everything. She was smart enough to document his crimes before she filed for divorce. This was better than I'd hoped. She'll testify? She'll do more than that. She wants to destroy him. Apparently Mason cleaned out their joint accounts before she could freeze them. left her with nothing but legal bills. Sounds familiar. I studied a photo of Sophia laughing at something Mason had said. Set up a meeting with Gina. I think we can help each other. The charity gala was held at the Grand Harbor Hotel, the kind of event where rich people paid $1,000 a plate to feel good about themselves, while writing off the expense on their taxes. I arrived alone, having told Sophia I'd meet her there after dealing with a construction emergency. She looked stunning in her new dress, standing beside Mason at a table near the front. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo that showcased the diamond necklace I'd given her for Christmas. She was wearing my gift while publicly flaunting her affair. The irony was perfect. I found my assigned seat at a table in the back, surrounded by other contractors and small business owners who'd bought tickets to network with potential clients. Ryan was there with his wife, looking uncomfortable in a rented tuxedo. "Your wife looks happy," Ryan observed, nodding towards Sophia's table. "She does, very happy. You okay with this?" I watched Sophia lean close to Mason, whispering something that made him smile. "I'm fine, just enjoying the show." The evening progressed through dinner and speeches about the children's hospital the event was supporting. I made polite conversation with my table mates while keeping one eye on my wife and her lover. They were completely absorbed in each other, acting like a couple at their own private party. During the silent auction, I made my move. I'd spent the afternoon preparing a special presentation, complete with photos and documentation that Dale had helped me compile. The hotel's audiovisual team had been surprisingly accommodating when I'd explained that I wanted to make a surprise tribute to my wife. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, taking the microphone during a break between auction items, "I'd like to take a moment to honor someone very special tonight." Sophia looked up in surprise, her face lighting up with what looked like genuine pleasure. For a moment, she was the woman I'd married. Beautiful, radiant, and focused entirely on me. "My wife Sophia has been working very hard lately." I continued, watching her smile grow wider. "She's been putting in long hours, staying late at the office, working weekends. I thought you all should see just how dedicated she is to her career." The first photo appeared on the large screens around the ballroom. Sophia and Mason entering the Ocean View Hotel. Her smile faltered. "Here she is conducting business at the Ocean View Hotel," I narrated as more photos appeared. "And here she is having a working lunch at Romano's." Very hands-on approach to client relations. The ballroom fell silent, except for the soft gasp from Sophia's table. Mason had gone pale, his hand frozen halfway to his wine glass. "And here's my personal favorite," I said as the final photo appeared. Mason and Sophia kissing in his car. Sophia's always been very committed to customer satisfaction. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then someone in the back started clapping slowly, and a few others joined in. Not applause for my presentation, but the kind of uncomfortable noise people make when they don't know how else to react to a social catastrophe. I handed the microphone back to the stunned auctioneer and walked calmly toward the exit. Behind me, I could hear the rising buzz of conversation as 500 people began discussing what they'd just witnessed. Sophia caught up with me in the parking lot, her face streaked with tears and mascara. "How could you do that to me?" she demanded. "In front of everyone. I didn't do anything to you, Sophia. I just showed them what you've been doing. You humiliated me." "You humiliated yourself. I just provided the documentation." Mason appeared, looking like he wanted to hit something, preferably me. "You son of a witch! You've ruined everything." "Have I? What exactly have I ruined, Mason? Your business reputation? Your relationship with your employee? Or just your plans to steal my wife?" "Sophia's not your property," he snarled. "You're absolutely right. She's not my property. But my house is, my cars are, and my bank accounts are. All the things that made you interested in her in the first place." Sophia was crying harder now, her elegant composure completely shattered. "Eli, please, we can work this out." "No, we can't. You made your choice, Sophia. You chose him over me, his money over our marriage, his bed over ours. Now you get to live with the consequences." I got in my truck and drove away, leaving them standing in the parking lot surrounded by the wreckage of their carefully constructed deception. In my rearview mirror, I could see other guests emerging from the hotel, their phones already out, probably posting about the evening's unexpected entertainment on social media. By tomorrow morning, everyone in our social circle would know about Sophia's affair. Her reputation as the elegant, sophisticated wife would be replaced by whispers about the cheating real estate agent who'd been exposed by her contractor husband. but I wasn't done. Not even close. The next morning, I found my workshop ransacked, tools scattered, blueprints torn, and a message spray-painted across my workbench. "Stay out of this." I called the police, who took a report and promised to investigate. Then I called Dale. "Mason?" he asked. "Has to be." This is exactly the kind of amateur intimidation I'd expect from him. "You rattled his cage pretty good last night. The whole town's talking about your slideshow." "Good. Let them talk. What did you find out about his business dealings?" "Gina Carter has enough evidence to put him in prison for 10 years. Bank fraud, tax evasion, money laundering. Mason's been running Prestige Realty like his personal piggy bank." "And Sophia?" "Clean so far. Looks like she was just sleeping with him, not helping him steal money. That's something, I guess." I surveyed the damage to my workshop, calculating the cost of replacing the destroyed tools. "Set up that meeting with Gina. It's time to take Mason down." We met at a coffee shop across town, away from the gossip mills that were undoubtedly grinding at full speed after last night's revelation. Gina Carter was an attractive woman in her 40s, well-dressed and articulate, but with the hard edge that came from being betrayed by someone you'd trusted completely. "I saw the video of your presentation last night," she said without preamble. "Very effective. Someone recorded it? Multiple people. It's all over social media. Your wife and my ex-husband are officially famous." She showed me her phone, where a shaky cell phone video of my gala presentation was racking up views and comments. Most of them were supportive of my actions, calling Mason and Sophia everything from cheaters to much worse. "This is perfect," I said. "Public humiliation is just the beginning. I want to destroy him completely." "Then you're going to love what I have." Gina pulled out a thick folder. Bank statements, forged documents, recorded phone calls where Mason admits to inflating appraisals. Everything you need to prove he's a criminal. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because the police won't act without a formal complaint, and I can't file one without admitting I knew about some of this while we were married. But you can take this information and use it however you want." I flipped through the documents, seeing patterns of fraud that went back years. He's been stealing from clients, banks, even his own company. Mason thinks he's untouchable because he's charming and well-connected. Time to prove him wrong. What do you want in return?" Gina smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. "I want to watch him lose everything, just like he made me lose everything. Think you can arrange that?" "Lady, I'm just getting started." That afternoon, I made copies of Gina's evidence and sent them to the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division, the State Real Estate Commission, and 3 different news outlets. I also sent copies to Mason's biggest clients, along with a polite note suggesting they might want to have their recent transactions independently audited. Then I went home and waited for Sophia. She arrived at 6, looking like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red from crying, and she'd pulled her hair back in a simple ponytail that made her look younger and more vulnerable. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm listening. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. What I did was wrong, and I'm sorry. But destroying my career, humiliating me in public, that's not going to fix our marriage. Our marriage was over the moment you decided Mason Carter was more important than your husband. It wasn't like that. Mason and I, it just happened. We work together, we have things in common, like his money." She flinched. "It's not about money, isn't it? When's the last time you looked at me the way you look at him? When's the last time you laughed at my jokes, or asked about my day, or acted like you were proud to be my wife?" "Eli, you fell in love with his lifestyle, Sophia. The expensive restaurants, the luxury hotels, the feeling of being with someone who moves in higher circles than a blue-collar contractor. That's not fair. Neither is infidelity. Neither is lying to your husband for months while you plan your exit strategy." She started crying again, but this time it felt calculated, designed to generate sympathy. "I never meant for it to go this far. I was going to tell you, ask for a divorce." "When?" "After you'd figured out how to get around the prenup? After Mason promised to leave his wife for you? He's already divorced because his wife caught him cheating. Just like I caught you. Seeing a pattern here?" Sophia wiped her eyes with a tissue. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to pack your things and leave. Tonight. This is my home too." "No, it's not. Check the deed, check the mortgage, check the prenup you signed without reading. This house belongs to me. The cars belong to me. The bank accounts belong to me. You belong to nobody, which is exactly what you're going to have when you walk out that door." You can't just throw me out. I can and I am. You chose Mason over me. Go live with him. He's not. We haven't. It's complicated. Ah. So Mason hasn't actually offered to let you move in with him? Hasn't promised to take care of you the way your husband did? What a surprise. The truth was written all over her face. Mason had been happy to sleep with her, to enjoy the thrill of stealing another man's wife, but he hadn't signed up to be her meal ticket. That was supposed to be my job, even while she was cheating on me. I need time to figure things out, she said, and you've had months to figure things out. You figured out how to lie to me, how to sneak around behind my back, how to spend my money on clothes to impress your lover. Now figure out where you're going to sleep tonight, because it won't be here. I walked upstairs and started pulling her clothes out of the closet, throwing them into suitcases with no regard for organization. Sophia followed, protesting and crying, but she didn't try to stop me. What about my car? She asked as I carried the last suitcase downstairs. It's in your name, you can keep it. But the payments come out of my account, so you'll need to figure out how to handle that. I can't afford the payments without your husband's money? Yeah, that's going to be a problem. I loaded her suitcases into her car while she stood in the driveway, looking lost and defeated. For a moment, I felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the photos of her kissing Mason, the lies she'd told, the humiliation she'd put me through. Eli, please, can't we try counseling or something? You should have thought of that before you decided to try Mason Carter. She got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing in the driveway of the house I'd built for us. The house that was now just mine. But I still wasn't done with Mason Carter. Not by a long shot. The FBI raid on Prestige Realty made the morning news. I watched from my kitchen, drinking coffee and eating toast, as federal agents carried boxes of evidence out of Mason's office building. The reporter mentioned an ongoing investigation into real estate fraud and money laundering. My phone rang. Dale. You see the news? He asked. I'm watching it now. Beautiful sight. Gets better. Mason's been arrested. Fraud, conspiracy, tax evasion. They're throwing everything at him. What about Sophia? Clean so far, like we thought. But she's out of a job. Prestige Realty's been shut down pending investigation. Perfect. Mason was facing federal charges, and Sophia was unemployed. But I wasn't satisfied yet. That afternoon, I drove to the construction site where my crew was building a custom home for a tech executive. The house was nearly finished. A sprawling, modern design with clean lines and expensive materials. It was also where I'd told Mason to meet me. He arrived in his Porsche, looking haggard and desperate. The federal charges had been dropped to misdemeanors after his lawyer worked some magic, but the damage to his reputation was permanent. You son of a witch, he said, climbing out of his car. You destroyed my business. I didn't destroy anything, Mason. I just showed people what you'd been hiding. The FBI raid, the news coverage, that was you. That was evidence of your crimes. I just made sure the right people saw it. We were alone on the construction site, surrounded by half-finished walls and exposed framing. I'd chosen the location carefully, isolated but not completely private, with security cameras that would record everything. What do you want? Mason demanded. I want you to understand something. You thought you could steal my wife, destroy my marriage, and walk away clean. You thought I was just some dumb contractor who wouldn't fight back. Sophia came to me. I didn't steal her. You seduced her, filled her head with promises about a better life, made her think she was too good for her husband. Now look where it got her. Mason's face was red with anger and frustration. She loves me. She loves your money. Or she did until you lost it all. How's that working out for you now? We'll rebuild. Start over. With what? Your business is gone, your reputation is ruined, and your bank accounts are frozen. What exactly are you going to offer her? Mason took a step toward me, his hands clenched into fists. You think you've won? You think destroying me will bring her back? I don't want her back. I want her to understand what she gave up. And I want you to understand what it costs to mess with another man's family. He swung at me then, a wild haymaker that would have been devastating if it had connected. But I'd spent 4 years in the Navy and 20 years in construction. I knew how to handle myself in a fight. I sidestepped his punch and grabbed his wrist, using his momentum to spin him around and slam him face first into the plywood sheathing of the unfinished wall. He grunted and tried to pull away, but I had leverage and experience on my side. Here's what's going to happen, Mason. You're going to stay away from my wife. You're going to leave town and start over somewhere else. And if I ever see you again, if I ever hear that you've contacted Sophia or tried to cause me any more problems, I'll make sure the FBI gets the rest of Gina's evidence. There's more? There's always more. Gina documented everything you did during your marriage. The stuff I gave the FBI was just the appetizer. I released him and stepped back. Mason straightened his expensive suit and glared at me. But the fight had gone out of him. He was a bully who'd never faced real consequences for his actions. And now that someone was pushing back, he didn't know how to respond. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is. Your business is gone, your reputation is destroyed, and your girlfriend is homeless. You lost, Mason. Accept it and move on." He got back in his Porsche and drove away, tires spinning on the gravel. I watched him disappear around the corner, then walk back to my truck. My phone was buzzing with text messages from Sophia. "Mason says you threatened him. We need to talk. I'm staying at Callie's. Call me." I deleted the messages without responding. Sophia had made her choice, and now she was living with the consequences. If she wanted to rebuild her life, she could do it without my help. That evening, I met Ryan for beers at Murphy's Tavern, a working-class bar where nobody cared about real estate fraud or cheating wives. "So what's next?" Ryan asked, raising his bottle in a mock toast. "You've destroyed the boyfriend, kicked out the wife, and become the most talked-about man in town. Now I rebuild. New projects, new clients, maybe even a new relationship eventually." "You don't sound bitter." "I'm not. Angry, yeah. Disappointed, absolutely. But not bitter. Sophia showed me who she really was, and Mason showed me what I was dealing with. Now I can move forward with a clear conscience." "What about Sophia? You think she'll try to come back?" I thought about that. Sophia was beautiful, charming, and adaptable. She'd find another man to take care of her. Maybe not as rich as Mason or as generous as me, but someone who'd provide the lifestyle she thought she deserved. She'll land on her feet. Women like Sophia always do. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with being free of it. We drank in comfortable silence, watching a baseball game on the bar's ancient television. For the first time in months, I felt relaxed. The constant tension of living with someone who was lying to me, the exhausting effort of pretending everything was fine. All of that was gone. My phone buzzed with another text from Sophia. "Please call me. I'm sorry." I turned off the phone and ordered another beer. The next morning, I found Sophia waiting in my driveway. She was sitting in her car, engine off, looking like she'd been there for hours. When she saw me, she got out and walked over. "We need to talk," she said. "I thought we covered everything the other night." "Mason's leaving town. His lawyer says it's better if he relocates while the investigation continues." "Good for him. Eli, I made a mistake. A terrible, stupid mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, rebuild our trust." "No, we can't." "Why not? People get past infidelity all the time." "Because you're not sorry you cheated, Sophia. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry Mason turned out to be a criminal. You're sorry you're homeless and unemployed, but you're not sorry you betrayed our marriage." "That's not true, isn't it? If Mason had been clean, if he'd offered to marry you and take care of you, would you be here begging for another chance?" She didn't answer, which was answer enough. "I loved you, Sophia. I gave you everything I had, built you a life you never could have imagined when you were serving drinks to rich people. And you threw it all away for a man who was using you just as much as you were using me. I never used you. You married me for security, for the lifestyle I could provide. When someone better came along, you were ready to trade up. That's not love, that's business. So what happens now? Now you figure out how to support yourself, find a new job, a new place to live, a new man to take care of you. Just leave me out of it." "What about the divorce?" "My lawyer will be in touch. Don't fight it, Sophia. You signed a prenup, and I have evidence of your infidelity. Take whatever settlement he offers and start over." She stood there for a moment, looking lost and defeated. Then she got back in her car and drove away. I never saw her again. 6 months later, I heard through Ryan that Sophia had moved to another state, where she'd married a divorced businessman she'd met online. Mason had relocated to Florida, where he was working as a used car salesman under an assumed name. I was building a new house for myself, smaller than the one I'd shared with Sophia, but designed exactly the way I wanted it. No compromises, no input from someone who saw my work as just a means to an end. Dale stopped by one afternoon while I was installing kitchen cabinets. You look good, Quinn. Relaxed. I feel good. Free. Any regrets? I thought about that. Did I regret marrying Sophia? Did I regret trusting her? Did I regret the public way I'd exposed her affair? No regrets. She taught me something valuable about people, about relationships, about myself. Expensive lesson, but worth it. What's that? That the person you marry should love you for who you are, not what you can provide. And if they can't do that, they're not worth keeping. Dale nodded approvingly. Words to live by. Words to build by, I corrected. Everything else is just decoration. 3 months after Sophia moved out, I received an unexpected visitor. Callie Morrison, one of Sophia's former friends, stood on my doorstep looking nervous and guilty. Eli, I need to talk to you. I let her in, curious about what could bring one of Sophia's enablers to my door. Callie had been among the loudest laughers when Sophia humiliated me at the party. Coffee? I offered. Please. She sat at my kitchen table, fidgeting with her purse. I owe you an apology. For what? For everything. The way we treated you, the things we said behind your back, encouraging Sophia to do what she did. This was interesting. What changed your mind? Sophia called me last week. She's getting married again to some guy she met online. She wanted me to be her maid of honor. Congratulations to her. Eli, she was bragging about how she'd played you and Mason against each other, how she'd gotten the best of both worlds before it all fell apart. She said you were too stupid to see what was happening, and Mason was too arrogant to realize she was using him. I poured coffee for both of us, not surprised by Sophia's version of events. In her mind, she was always the sufferer or the clever manipulator, never the woman who destroyed her own marriage through selfishness and greed. She also said something else, Callie continued, about the prenup. What about it? She claims it's not valid. Says she has a lawyer who found loopholes, ways to challenge it. She's planning to come back and sue you for half of everything. I sat down across from Callie, studying her face. Why are you telling me this? Because after she moved out, I found out some things. About how she really felt about you, about us, about everyone in her life. Such as, she called us all idiots, said we were boring suburbanites who didn't understand real ambition. She laughed about how easy it was to manipulate us into supporting her affair. And that bothered you? Callie's face flushed with embarrassment. We thought we were being good friends, helping her find happiness, but she was just using us to make herself feel better about cheating on her husband. I sipped my coffee, processing this information. Sophia was planning to challenge the prenup, which meant she was still thinking about my money, still scheming to get what she felt she deserved. There's something else, Callie said. Jade and Vanessa don't know I'm here, but they found out about Mason's other women. Other women? He wasn't just cheating on his wife with Sophia. There were at least 3 others, all clients or employees. Sophia thought she was special, but she was just another conquest. The irony was perfect. Sophia had betrayed our marriage for a man who was betraying her with multiple other women. She'd thought she was trading up, but she'd actually just become part of Mason's rotation. Why should I care about any of this? I asked. Because Sophia's not done with you. She's broke. Her new marriage is already falling apart, and she's desperate. She's planning to come back and cause you trouble. Let her try. The prenup is ironclad, and I have documentation of her infidelity. What if she claims you forced her to sign it? What if she says you threatened her or coerced her? I hadn't considered that possibility, but it was exactly the kind of desperate move Sophia would make. She'd rewrite history to make herself the sufferer and me the villain. Thanks for the warning, Callie. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, Eli, for all of it. You deserve better. After she left, I called my lawyer, James Feldman, a sharp-eyed man in his 60s who specialized in family law. Eli, good to hear from you. How's the single life treating you? It's about to get complicated. Sophia might be planning to challenge the prenup. On what grounds? I explained what Callie had told me, including Sophia's claims about coercion and invalid documentation. Bees, Feldman said bluntly. I drafted that prenup myself, and you signed it in my office with 2 witnesses present. She had her own lawyer review it before she signed. There's no coercion, no fraud, no grounds for challenge. But she could still try? She could try to claim the moon is made of cheese, but that doesn't make it true. However, defending against a frivolous lawsuit still costs money and time. Let me make some calls, see what I can find out about her situation. That afternoon, I drove to the construction site where my crew was finishing the tech executive's house. The project was ahead of schedule and under budget, the kind of success that built reputations in the construction business. My foreman, Pete Rodriguez, met me at the trailer we use as a temporary office. Boss, we got a problem. Someone's been calling our clients, trying to spread rumors about shoddy work and cost overruns. What kind of rumors? That we use substandard materials, that we don't pull proper permits, that we're not licensed or insured. All BS. But some clients are getting nervous. This had Sophia's fingerprints all over it. She knew enough about my business to cause real damage, and she was vindictive enough to try. Any clients actually cancel? Not yet, but the Henderson project is asking a lot of questions. They want to see all our permits and insurance documentation. Give them whatever they want, schedule inspections, provide references, be completely transparent. If someone's trying to sabotage us, the best defense is perfect documentation. You think this is connected to your ex-wife? I'd bet money on it. That evening, Feldman called with news. Your ex-wife is broke, Eli. Her new marriage lasted 6 weeks before her husband figured out she'd lied about her financial situation. She's living in a studio apartment and working at a department store, so she's desperate. Desperate enough to file a nuisance lawsuit, hoping you'll settle just to make her go away. I also found out she's been in contact with Mason Carter. I thought he left town. He did, but they've been talking. My sources say they're planning something together. What kind of something? Not sure yet, but it involves you and your business. Be careful, Eli. Desperate people do stupid things. The next morning, I found my truck vandalized. All 4 tires slashed, windows broken, and cheater spray painted across the hood. The security cameras at my house had been spray painted black, so there was no footage of the vandalism. I called the police, who took a report and promised to investigate. Then I called Dale. Sophia, he asked. Has to be. Or Mason, acting on her behalf. Want me to put them under surveillance? Do it. And Dale, if you catch them in the act, make sure you get video. 2 days later, Dale called with news. Got them. Sophia and Mason are both in town, staying at the Motel 6 on Route 9. They've been driving around your neighborhood, casing your house and your work sites. Planning another vandalism spree? Looks like it, but I got something better. They don't know I'm watching them, so I've been recording their conversations. Want to hear what they're planning? Play it. Dale's recording was crystal clear. Sophia and Mason discussing how to destroy my business reputation, how to challenge the prenup, and how to split the money they expected to steal from me. The stupid fool thinks he won, Sophia's voice said. But I know things about his business, about his clients. I can make his life hell. What about the prenup? Mason asked. My lawyer says we can claim coercion, fraud, whatever it takes. Even if we don't win, the legal fees will bankrupt him. And then we take everything. The house, the business, all of it. He destroyed our lives. Now we destroy his. The recording continued for 20 minutes, with Sophia and Mason planning various schemes to ruin me financially and professionally. It was exactly the evidence I needed. Dale, you beautiful fool. This is perfect. What do you want to do with it? First, we're going to the police. Conspiracy, harassment, vandalism. They've handed us a criminal case. Then we're going to my lawyer. This recording will destroy any civil lawsuit they try to file. What about the business sabotage? We'll handle that too. I want you to keep recording them, document everything they do. When this is over, they're going to wish they'd never heard my name. The police were very interested in Dale's recordings. Within hours, they'd issued warrants for Sophia and Mason's arrest on charges of conspiracy, harassment, and destruction of property. They were picked up at their motel that evening, both looking shocked that their plan had been discovered. The local news covered their arrest, describing them as a pair of vindictive ex-lovers who'd conspired to destroy an innocent businessman. Feldman was equally pleased with the recordings. This destroys any chance of challenging the prenup, he said. No judge will listen to claims of coercion from someone who's been recorded planning to defraud you. What about the business damage? We'll sue them for defamation, harassment, and interference with business relationships. Between the criminal charges and the civil liability, they'll be paying you for the rest of their lives. The trial was a media sensation. Sophia and Mason, the cheating couple who'd been exposed at a charity gala, were now facing criminal charges for trying to destroy the husband they'd betrayed. I testified about the affair, the divorce, and the subsequent harassment. Dale played his recordings, which clearly established their guilt. Even their own lawyers seemed embarrassed by the case. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all charges. Sophia was sentenced to 6 months in jail and 5 years of probation. Mason got a year in prison, thanks to his prior fraud conviction. But I still wasn't done. The civil lawsuit was even more satisfying. With their criminal convictions on record, proving defamation and harassment was easy. The judge awarded me damages for the business losses, the vandalism, the legal fees, and punitive damages for their malicious conduct. The total judgment was more than Sophia and Mason could ever pay, which meant they'd be making monthly payments to me for decades. Every month, they'd be reminded of what their greed and vindictiveness had cost them. Sophia's friends, Callie, Jade, and Vanessa, publicly apologized for their role in encouraging the affair. They'd learned the hard way that Sophia had been using them just as much as she'd used everyone else. The construction business thrived. The publicity from the trial actually brought in new clients, people who admired how I'd handled the situation. My reputation for honesty and integrity was stronger than ever. 6 months after the trial, I was having dinner at Romano's, the same restaurant where Sophia and Mason had conducted their affair, when I saw a familiar face at the bar. Gina Carter, Mason's ex-wife, was sitting alone with a glass of wine and a satisfied smile. "Mind if I join you?" I asked. "Please do. I was hoping I'd run into you." Celebrating Mason's first month in prison, I thought it deserved recognition. We talked for an hour about justice, revenge, and the satisfaction of seeing bad people face consequences for their actions. Gina was intelligent, funny, and refreshingly honest about her own mistakes. "I should have seen through Mason years ago," she said, "but I was young and stupid, impressed by his money and his charm." We all make mistakes. The important thing is learning from them. What did you learn? That the right person will love you for who you are, not what you can provide, and that the wrong person will always reveal themselves eventually. Wise words. Are you seeing anyone? Not yet. Still rebuilding, still figuring out what I want in a relationship. Well, when you figure it out, give me a call. I'd like to have dinner with a man who knows how to fight back. She handed me her card and left, her perfume lingering in the air like a promise of better things to come. I sat at the bar, finishing my drink and thinking about the past year. Sophia's betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but it had also freed me from a relationship that was built on lies and false promises. Mason and Sophia were both in prison, paying for their crimes against me and others. Their reputations were ruined, and their futures uncertain. They'd gotten exactly what they deserved, and I was free to build something new, something better, something real. The game was finally over, and I had won. The call came at midnight on a Tuesday in March, exactly 1 year after Sophia had humiliated me at her party. I was sleeping soundly in my new house, a modest but perfectly designed home I'd built for myself, when the phone rang. "Mr. Quinn, this is Officer Martinez with the County Sheriff's Department. We have a situation at your old address on Harbor View Drive." I sat up, instantly alert. What kind of situation? "Breaking and entering. The current owners called it in. 2 suspects fled the scene, but we found evidence they were specifically looking for you." The current owners. I'd sold the house where Sophia and I had lived, unable to bear the memories it contained. A young couple with 2 kids had bought it, turning it back into a real family home. "I'll be right there." I threw on clothes and drove across town to my former neighborhood. Police cars lined the street, their red and blue lights painting the houses in alternating colors. The young father who'd bought my house met me in the driveway. "Mr. Quinn, thank God you're here. They were asking about you, specifically wanted to know where you'd moved." "Who was asking?" "A woman and a man. The woman claimed to be your ex-wife. Said she had a right to be in the house, Sophia. But she was supposed to be in prison for another 3 months." Officer Martinez filled in the details. "Sophia Quinn was released early for good behavior. She and Mason Carter broke into the house around 11 p.m., apparently thinking you still lived here. Mason's out too, released last week. They were picked up together at a motel downtown. So they were both free, both broke, and both stupid enough to try breaking into my old house. Some people never learned." "What were they looking for?" "According to the homeowners, they were searching for documents, financial records, anything that might help them challenge your divorce settlement." I laughed, surprising the officer. "There's nothing to find. All the financial records are with my lawyer. and the divorce was finalized months ago. Well, they seemed pretty desperate. The woman was crying, saying you'd ruined her life and she deserved compensation. Where are they now? County jail. They'll be arraigned in the morning on breaking and entering charges. I thanked the officer and apologized to the homeowners, promising to pay for any damage. Then I drove home and called Feldman. Jesus, Eli, it's almost 1 a.m. Sophia and Mason are out of prison and they just got arrested for breaking into my old house. What? They weren't supposed to be released for months? Early release for good behavior, apparently. They're back to their old tricks, still trying to find ways to steal my money. This violates their probation. They'll go back to prison for the full sentence, probably longer. Good. But I want to make sure this is the last time they bother me. What do you have in mind? I want to be at their arraignment. I want them to see me, to understand that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm not afraid of them. Eli, that might not be wise. Let the system handle this. The system let them out early. I want to handle this myself. The arraignment was scheduled for Thursday morning. I arrived early and took a seat in the gallery, wearing my best suit and a confident smile. When Sophia and Mason were let in wearing orange jumpsuits and handcuffs, I made sure they saw me. Sophia looked terrible. Prison had aged her, stripped away the polished veneer that had made her so attractive to wealthy men. Her hair was lank and unwashed, her skin pale and drawn. She was still beautiful, but it was the faded beauty of someone who'd lost everything that mattered to her. Mason looked even worse. His silver hair had gone gray, and he'd lost weight in all the wrong places. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by the hunched posture of a man who'd been broken by his own mistakes. When Sophia saw me in the courtroom, she started crying. Not the calculated tears she'd used to manipulate me during our marriage, but the desperate sobs of someone who'd finally realized how completely she'd destroyed her own life. The judge was not sympathetic. Breaking and entering, violation of probation, harassment of sufferers, he threw the book at them. Sophia got 2 years, Mason got 3. No early release this time. As they were led away, Sophia turned back to look at me one last time. Her mouth moved, but I couldn't hear what she was saying over the sound of her sobbing. I didn't care. Whatever she was trying to tell me, it was too late. Outside the courthouse, I ran into Dale, who'd been following the case. That's it then. He said, they're done. Finally. You don't look satisfied. I thought about that. I am satisfied. Justice was served, they're paying for their crimes, and I'm free to move on with my life. What more could I want? Revenge? I got my revenge. Sophia lost her marriage, her home, her reputation, and her freedom. Mason lost his business, his money, his wife, and his freedom. They both lost everything they cared about. And you? I lost a cheating wife and gained my self-respect. I'd call that a fair trade. That afternoon, I met Gina Carter for lunch. We'd been dating for 3 months, taking things slowly and building a relationship based on honesty and mutual respect. So it's really over? She asked. It's over. Mason and Sophia are back in prison, and they won't be getting out anytime soon. How do you feel? Relieved, free, ready to focus on the future instead of the past. Gina reached across the table and took my hand. I love you, Eli Quinn. I love you too. It was the first time either of us had said those words, and they felt right. Not desperate or manipulative like Sophia's declarations of love, but honest and real and full of promise. So what's next? Gina asked. I'm thinking about expanding the business. Maybe building custom homes in other cities, growing beyond what I ever imagined. With a partner? Are you offering? I have business experience, capital to invest, and a very personal interest in your success. And I have the construction expertise, the reputation, and the drive to build something amazing. Sounds like a perfect partnership. Business and personal. Both. We sealed the deal with a kiss, right there in the restaurant where Sophia had once conducted her affair. The irony was perfect. The place where my old life had been destroyed was now where my new life was beginning. 6 months later, Gina and I were married in a small ceremony attended by family and close friends. Ryan was my best man, and Pete Rodriguez gave a toast about second chances and the importance of choosing the right partner. We honeymooned in Italy, staying in small hotels and eating at family restaurants, enjoying the simple pleasure of being together without drama or deception. When we returned, we moved into the house I'd built for myself, which was now big enough for both of us and the life we were building together. The business thrived. Quinn and Carter Construction became known for quality work, honest dealing, and innovative designs. We built homes for young families and successful professionals, creating spaces where people could build real relationships and lasting happiness. Sophia and Mason remained in prison, forgotten by almost everyone except the people they'd wronged. Occasionally, I'd get a letter from one of them, usually asking for money or forgiveness. I threw the letters away without reading them. The past was the past, and I was focused on the future. One evening, as Gina and I sat on the deck of our home watching the sunset, she asked me a question that had been on her mind. Do you ever regret how it all happened? The public humiliation, the legal battles, the way you destroyed them? I thought about Sophia crying in the courtroom, about Mason's broken posture as he was led away in handcuffs, about the complete ruin I'd brought down on both of them. No, I said finally. They made their choices and they paid the consequences. I didn't destroy them. They destroyed themselves. I just made sure everyone could see it. And if you had to do it all over again, I'd do it exactly the same way. Sometimes people need to face the full consequences of their actions before they understand how much damage they've caused. Gina nodded, understanding. She'd been through her own betrayal, her own legal battles, her own journey from sufferer to survivor. I'm proud of you, she said, for fighting back, for refusing to be a sufferer, for building something better. We built something better, together. Together, she agreed. As the sun set over the city where I'd been humiliated, betrayed, and nearly destroyed, I felt nothing but gratitude for the journey that had brought me to this moment. Sophia's betrayal had been the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it had also been the catalyst for the best thing. Meeting Gina, building a real partnership, and learning what love actually meant. The woman who'd tried to destroy me had actually set me free, and that was the sweetest revenge of all.